Well, we got a big week coming up ahead of us. First off, we're having our worship service this morning. We have Barb Lang with us here today from Blessings in a Backpack during our teaching time. I'm going to do an interview with her so we can learn more about this really amazing grassroots, community generating, and community helping. It's more than an organization. They're really picking up in the holes of society that society is overlooking. So it's a really neat opportunity. If you know a little bit about Blessings in a Backpack, we hope you'll learn more. If you know nothing, we hope you'll learn something. So I hope you can enjoy that time of conversation. Notice in your bulletins you have the blue notes. If you take a couple moments and fill those out, let us know that you're here. There is still time to have some last-minute drop-in volunteers for VBS that can just kind of help out where we need to point you in whatever direction. If you've been wobbling on whether you want to give a little bit of time to that, today's your day to choose. Just write on there VBS, and we'll be able to plug you in and get you to be part of that. On the back, you notice there's a place for prayer requests. We do prayer. Prayer is very important to us. And we can either have your prayer shared publicly, which you tick off the public mark, or if you have a petition or a praise that you'd like lifted up to God privately, tick off private, and myself and or the deacons will see that and pray for that. We've got a couple announcements from the floor that we need to brought to your attention. Louise and Joyce, since Louise is closer and her last name starts with A, we'll have her go first.
My husband told me that when he was in the Army and he got stationed at different places, every time it was a new place, because his last name started with A, he got on potato peeling patrol. He's quite good at it, too. On the 23rd of August, there will be a congregational meeting. The last thing that we must do to make sure our bylaws and constitution would be all updated is to vote on the core values. Quite a while ago, Pastor Paul gave to all of you a survey about what were your beliefs, your core values in Christianity. And then he compiled those survey results and presented those to council. He also presented a draft on core values, and then several council members worked on that draft. And I want to thank Sandy Lewis for her extra work on that draft to prioritize the core values and to get them in a short form that would be easily read. And so council then grappled with those core values, and at the last council meeting then approved for submission to the congregation for vote the core values. And you will be receiving those today at the end of the service. Please look them over and be ready to vote on the 23rd at our congregational meeting on those core values. A lot of work and time was put into these by Pastor Paul and by council, and so we hope that you will take time to really look at them and see if you feel that they do fit Bethany. Thank you.
Good morning. Along the same lines with Louise, the Pastoral Search Committee has been meeting, and we have been putting together a lot of things to prepare us for bringing in and calling a new pastor. One of the things that we want to do is to do another survey, which you will be, as a congregation, offered to participate in, and we're going to start that today and carry it through to our next congregational meeting, which, as she said, will be August 23rd. One of the things that I want to point out is that we're very fortunate to have ABC put together this survey for us, and it's quite comprehensive, but it may be a little scary to you when you first look at it. You think like, oh my God, it's a lot to read and a lot to think about. But please take your time and look it over, and we want you to pick 8, only 8. We have 2 pages of questions for you, but we only want you to pick those 8 priorities that you see are needed in a new pastor. And we want you to keep in mind that you should focus on what Bethany, the church, needs in a new pastor, not necessarily what you think as personally that we should be needing, but think about Bethany over the last few years and what was missing in your opinion. What should we have here that should be guiding us in the right directions in our praise? So focus on what a pastor can bring to us. And again, look at us as a whole. You're looking at us as a team, so it's not necessarily that the pastor has to do everything. We have committees and head people to take care of certain things. So when you look at your questions and to try to make a decision if that's going to be one of your 8 priorities, also think if that pastor has something that has another person that could possibly share in that duty, and perhaps that might not be one of your 8 priorities. The search committee team, and if you would all stand, I'd appreciate it, so that they know who we have. They will be at the doors when you leave today. We'll pass out the surveys to you. Feel free to sit down and do the survey right now if you want, and then we're going to have them turned in at Grand Central. I'll be out there and can either pick them up for you, or we'll have a box for you to put them in. Or you can hold on to it, go home and ponder on it a little bit. But just remember that the August 23rd date is our cutoff date when all surveys should be in, so that we can compile them and make some sense of what it is that you need in a new pastor. Okay, thank you very much.
2 very important things. Core values, we've worked very hard on that, so please look at that and give it prayerful consideration. But the big thing is your search. Now, let me let you in on a secret. As someone who looks at profiles of churches, I look at what they're needing, what a church needs, how it needs to move forward, how it needs to grow, how it needs to spiritually connect, how it needs to enhance what it's doing. This is not something to take lightly. Please take it very seriously, because the people who are going to be looking at it, blokes and ladies like myself, that's the only information we have to go on when we're having a first glance at your congregation. So please, prayerfully work. Let's get into worship, which is why we're here, to have the Spirit move us, bring us together, see how we can learn and grow within this hour. So Bob and Mary, I'm going to ask you to come up and start us off with our opening praise songs.
Lord, I need you.
Would you all pray with me, please? Beautiful and amazing God, it is in your light we are able to see. It is the darkness that your light pierces. And in doing so, O God, our ability to see then allows us to see your love and your glory. As we worship in this hour, as we learn about blessings in a backpack, as we sing your songs, as we give of our hearts, loving God, let your light shine and guide us. Let it fill us. Let it bind us. Let us, O God, worship in the glory of your beauty and your love. Come and be with us in this hour. We ask in your Son's precious and most holy name. Amen. Barb's presence with us this morning is out of a conversation that I had with the Krites about 3 weeks ago. After the Bible study, RG comes to me, and in his calm but persistent manner, he kind of says, Pastor Paul, you know anything about blessings in a backpack? And I go, well, yeah, I have some awareness of it. I've worked with a couple of churches that did it in the past. Do you think the church could handle having someone who's affiliated with that organization, an organizer of it, come and talk to us? And I went, absolutely. And he gave Barb's my contact information, and we exchanged a few emails and a couple phone conversations, and she's with us here today to talk about this growing service to the hungry in our community called Blessings in a Backpack. So, Barb, welcome. We're very glad that you're with us here today. How would you explain Blessings in a Backpack? What is that?
Well, Blessings in a Backpack is a program that began in Kentucky, in Louisville, in 2005, when a teacher noticed, not for the first time I'm sure, that kids were coming to school on Monday tired and cranky and not really ready to learn. And further discussion shows it's because they didn't have enough sleep, and they didn't get enough sleep because they were hungry. When the federal government provides them with free and reduced lunches during the week, their families had to provide for them on the weekends, and that wasn't always happening. So a group of people in Kentucky got together and formed this committee and decided that they would feed the children on the weekends who were eligible for free and reduced lunches. And so they got together, made a partnership with Myers. Myers offers discounted food, and they decided to get together and started with one school. And on weekends, or during the week, they got backpacks, just like the kids carry to school, and got food from Myers, and they had a menu they followed, and each week this child took a backpack of food home for the weekends. The program's unique because it doesn't really feed families, although there are some things in there like a box of mac and cheese or something that would feed an entire family or help to. But it's mostly individual stuff for that child. The program grew. When we started it 4 years ago in Waterford, it was in 32 states. It's now in 46 states with over 800 schools participating. In Michigan alone, over 608,000 meals were provided this last year. So we're doing this at Waterford at Riverside School. We started at Sandburg, and then the district closed Sandburg. The reason we chose Riverside is because it is a Title I school, which indicates a low level economically, and because it is my home church, Central United Methodist Church. It's now their local school. And our church has been the driving force behind getting this started. However, I want to thank you now and make sure you hear me that Bethany has become an important partner in that endeavor. And we thank you for your prayers and your donations over the last few years.
So how does that make Blessings in a Backpack different from some of the other food-based programs that we have in the area?
Well, first of all, the food comes to the children. The families don't have to go to a pantry and choose what they want. And many of them do. They work in conjunction sometimes. But our only criteria for kids to get a backpack of food on the weekends is that they qualify for the free or reduced fee lunches provided at school and that they have parental permission.
Now, you said 4 years ago you all started, it's out of your home congregation. What is your role within all of this? Because you're not just not a run-of-the-mill volunteer. You're a little higher up on the pecking order, from what I understand.
A little higher on the food chain, maybe? I don't know. I am a retired...
That was a great pun, by the way.
I thought so. Thank you. I'm a retired teacher and school librarian from Pontiac and Avondale. I've been a member of Central United Methodist Church my entire life, and I've sat on every committee, chaired every board, done all the meetings, and then I thought, I'm tired of meetings. I need to do something. And I looked, and we do missions at our church, and we do a lot of them, but none of them really spoke to me. But we now take Florida vacations in the winter and spare ourselves the cold. And I was watching a 60 Minutes segment with Scott Pelley, and he was interviewing some upper elementary and middle school children who were homeless. And they talked about that, but then they got into the food issue. And he asked a question, what does it feel like to be hungry? And this young man who looked very much like one of our youth that I just worked with in confirmation, I think that's what got my attention. He says, well, you try to go to sleep, and maybe you're asleep for like 5 minutes, but then you wake up because your stomach hurts. And then you try to go to sleep, and you go to sleep, but you wake up again because your stomach hurts because it has no food in it. Then another little girl volunteered that when she went to school, she went up to the kids who were eating breakfast, which was provided for some kids or that they brought with them, and would go up to them if they hadn't started eating their cereal yet and say, are you going to eat your cereal? It was embarrassing, but it was the only way she might get a breakfast. And then this one little girl with tears streaming down her face, she was probably 12, and said, I feel sorry that my parents have to spend money on me. I feel like it's my fault that they can't afford the food, which just about breaks your heart. So after that session, in the next day in the local paper was a Blessings in a Backpack article. It's a God thing, right? So I started researching using all my little research skills and decided that this is what we needed to do in Waterford. Everybody thinks of Pontiac, okay? Because, I grew up in the Pontiac schools, I taught in the Pontiac schools, I get it. But everybody thinks Waterford is this nice little rich suburban community. At Sandburg, when we started, 84% of our kids were below the poverty level. 84% in Waterford, and that was just one school. The lowest one, I think, was one school had maybe 30% that was below the poverty level. 61% of kids in this country go hungry. 61%. Now, if we were a third world country, that wouldn't be unusual. But how many of you have pantries or shelving in your house where you have food right now? Everybody, pretty much? How many of you have been to a grocery store in the last week or two? And aren't the shelves pretty well stocked? It's not a question of not having enough food. It's a justice issue. And when is enough enough? It's when everybody has enough. And so we decided that this was the program that would help us get started, trying to solve that problem.
So in your involvement with Blessings in a Backpack, what has been the thing that has surprised you the most?
Well, first of all, we're not allowed to know the kids. It's privacy issues. We know the kids by number. They're in Mrs. Smith, number 3. And, you know, that's a little hard sometimes because you want to see their little faces when they get their backpack. But we don't do that. What did you ask me again?
What's been the most surprising thing for you?
That there were so many kids in Waterford that needed help. That was the biggest surprise. The next surprise was how easy it was to get volunteers and how easy it was to get people to pray for the program and how easy it was to get money. A lot of districts that are starting are running big fundraisers and stuff. I'm married to a United Way, retired United Way professional. So he asked for money all his life, and I've learned a bunch from him. And so we basically solicit funds, and we don't have to run all these fundraiser events, and we can concentrate on what our primary issue is here. And so that's what we do. There are now 36 programs statewide. There's only one school in Waterford right now. We hope to expand that at some point. Last year, our first year at Riverside, we only served about 125 kids. There are more that need it, but some of them, the thing that surprised me, we could not get parental permission. I can provide for my family. I don't need your help. You run into that a lot. We ran into one situation where there was a divorce and the kids were with mom one weekend and dad one weekend, and mom wanted the food and dad didn't want the food, and I said, we can't get in the middle of that. You guys, work that out at the school, get the social worker and the teacher and work that out and let us know what happens. And we weren't allowed to send food home for the rest of the year. So it surprises me that pride comes ahead of asking for help sometimes. So you try to do it in as graceful a way as possible.
What is your greatest joy in working with Blessings of a Backpack? In a backpack, excuse me.
Well, obviously, you're feeding children. That's always a good thing. You're meeting a lot of new people that you are working with on a weekly basis, people who come every week to pack backpacks. And sometimes that's not a whole lot of fun, but they make it fun. And we have new volunteers come in and old volunteers leave, and some people come once a month and some people come every week. And it's an amazing group of people. And so that's good. And then this last year, I said we didn't know the kids, but a couple of their teachers had them do thank you notes, which we'd never gotten before. So this one says, thank you from Autumn, and it's all nicely colored. These would be first graders or kindergartners. Thank you for the food. If it weren't for you, our family would starve. And they drew their family all with open mouths. You get another one that's nicely colored. Thank you so much for all you do. If it weren't for you, many families would be hungry. Thank you. But the one that blew my mind was this one. It's just scribbled black. And obviously, this was a language immersion program of some kind, but brought back the old teaching skills where R-I-L-I really does mean really, and so forth. And I finally figured it out. I really needed that food from Blessings in a Backpack. And it has him as just a little kid here saying thanks, and then the backpack people, big, tall, it says you. So that's kind of what makes it worthwhile.
As you go forward in your program, in the role that you serve, what do you see as a challenge, or some of the challenges that concern you for Blessings in a Backpack?
Well, Waterford is such a transient community. We have kids in and out all the time. So it's hard to keep up with all that. We're getting more of an influx of Hispanic folks, so we're trying to do things like make sure any communication that goes home from us goes in both English and Spanish. And we're looking to include more ethnic foods in the menu as that group grows. But the main thing is just keeping it going. I didn't know I was a control freak until I started Blessings in a Backpack. And then I worried about every little thing. And if I didn't do it, it probably wasn't going to get done, or it wasn't going to get done right. So I have now been able to understand that I work with a wonderful group of volunteers. We have people from the Golden Age Club. We have kids from Notre Dame Prep that have to do community service, and they come and help pack backpacks. We have a couple physically challenged folks who come in, and yes, as we go through our assembly line of putting food in backpacks, they slow us down a little. Couldn't care less. It's just a wonderful experience. Challenge-wise, it's always a challenge to raise money, but money keeps coming in somehow. So again, I think it's a God thing. I was at a dollar store a couple years ago because some of our kids have allergies. And when they have allergies and can't eat fish, their can of tuna fish doesn't go in their backpack. So I go to the dollar store and I pick up beef stew, different soups, different kinds of food for the allergy kids. So I had about 20 items in my basket, and the lady behind me in line started up a conversation, and she says, "Is that stuff any good?" I said, "Well, I hope so. It's for a feeding program for children." "Oh, do you work for Open Door?" "No." I said, "That's a great program, but this is Blessings in a Backpack," and I explained, hard to believe, but very briefly, about Blessings in a Backpack. And she said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And she handed me a $20 bill to pay for my 20 items. And by now, and she's saying, I just have to do it. And so we're all standing there, and the cashier's running it and all that. And then the lady behind me in the dollar store says, "Here." She handed me a $100 bill. I tried to get her name so I could get a tax letter sent to her. And so the cashier and she and I were all in tears. But here's a lady in the dollar store who just handed me $100 for this program. And those are the surprises that show you, I think, that God really is in this. And it keeps us going to realize that there are good people everywhere who want to help.
You thanked us earlier for the way that we've been supporting the program up to this point. So let me ask the question that's easy for you to answer, but it'll make a little more work on our part. How can we be doing better? How can we be improving our service for this program, Blessings in a Backpack? Missions Chair, pay attention to this, please.
Well, Sandy, I'll give you this clipboard later.
She's not kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. I got the clipboard at the dollar store, by the way. You never know. We obviously want people to pray for this program. This is not just a church program. Our steering committee is made up of a third church folks, a third community leaders, and a third school personnel. This is intended, very intentionally, to be a collaboration of community folks so that the burden doesn't fall in one place. And in fact, my co-chair, when I'm in Florida and he does meetings and stuff, is Judge Rich Kuhn, for some of you who may know him, in the Waterford District Court. But we want you to pray. We want anybody who loves the meetings and wants to be in leadership. Our steering committee meets about quarterly, sometimes 3 times a year, just to see if there's any issues we need to take action on, keep us up to date on how things are going, solve any problems that exist. So if you're into that kind of leadership, we'd love to welcome you on our steering committee. If you're available on Tuesday mornings at 9:30 and you can lift a box, we really need you, because Myers gives us our food, but they don't deliver it. We have a standing agreement with a wonderful Waterford moving company called Changing Places. They're on Hatchery Road, and they use their truck and bring us our food once a month. And then we have volunteers who meet the truck, unload it, and put it away in our storage area. So anybody who wants to work on food delivery, you can check under food delivery. If you want to pack food, if you want to pack backpacks, we do that Wednesdays at about 4, when kids get out of school, it varies each year, so around 4 o'clock. And we're done within an hour. And we just run an assembly line, and it works really well. We have the system pretty much down. And so there's a place on this clipboard where it says pack food. You could check there. And then anybody who does sign up for any of these things, Sandy's going to get me this list at some point, if there is a list. And I will, contact you and get you in on how this happens. One other thing I want to show you, we have been using regular backpacks. The national organization in Kentucky sent us the first batch, but they only send them once. And backpacks with kids, any of you who have kids and grandkids, know that they don't always wear really well. And we've had some come in and smell like smoke because everybody in the household, except the kids, I hope, smoke. And our best backpack story was when a teacher brought me down a wet backpack and said, "You might want to replace this one." And I said, "Okay, we can do that." "Why?" The child said her pet pig peed on it. So we thought that was a good reason to discard the backpack. This year, we're going to try what many districts have been doing for a couple of years, using a cinch sack that the food goes in here, and then instead of having to manage their own backpack and their food backpack, they can probably put this inside their regular backpack. If not, it does have the strings on the back that they can carry it like a regular backpack. These are obviously much cheaper. They're easy to replace. And so we're going to give it a try for a year and see how this works. So we're still blessings in a backpack, even though we're using cinch sacks. But, it's not all about the kids. It is, of course, and it isn't. But it's all about us. Christ gives us the call to be compassionate. And one of the things he said was to feed the hungry. We have plenty of food here. We need to feed the hungry. So I appreciate your time this morning, and have I talked long enough?
Yeah. Almost? Who said almost?
Is there a quick question? Is that fair in this format?
Yeah, you can ask it.
I'll be around afterwards if
anyone wants to ask a question.
Yes.
There's one in the back there.
For instance, we have 4 weeks, and each week is a little different. I'm looking at my A week right now. They get 2 juice boxes of 100% juice, a fruit and granola bar, either instant oatmeal or box cereal. And in this week, their protein, they get Campbell pork and beans. They get 2 Jif to go peanut butters, the little peanut butter things, ramen noodles, and mac and cheese. So that's an example of one weekend's worth of food for that child and sometimes the family. One of the thank you notes said, "My brother gets to it first." So I don't know. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes. Tina. Your best bet here probably is to make the check out to the church, and then perhaps your bookkeeper, I think, has been sending 1 check to Blessings in a Backpack. Our fiduciary agent is the North Woodward Community Foundation. They're located in Troy, and they handle all the backpack programs in the state. So each one is kept separately, and they send out tax letters. If you prefer to send it directly, I can tell you how to do that after the service. But generally in churches, it usually works best if they just write a check to the church, put Blessings in a Backpack in the memo line, and I'm sure we'll get it. And thank you.
Did I see a hand moving over? Yes. Go ahead.
Well, if you sign this, and preferably an email, but if not an email, a phone number, and I will give you all the information you need to know. As I say, Sandy will have this. Anything else?
Well, if there aren't any other questions immediate, Barb's going to be hanging around after the service. You can take a few minutes and ask your questions, or at least thank her for all that she's doing. But I think as a group, we kind of need to give her some affirmation and thanks of being here today.
It's not me, it's you guys.
Well, you can say it's not you, it's us, but how many of you understand this program a little deeper than you did before? That is definitely you.
Spread the word, guys.